we've challenged other nations to join us, not only to spur global demand, but to address the underlying problems that caused such a deep global recession in the first place. I didn't change my underlying position, but I did tell my staff to change the words on my website.
But the underlying problem, as I said to President Calderon and others, the underlying problem is in the Canadian refugee laws.
Summit in London in April. Leaders agreed to work together in an unprecedented way to spur global demand, but also to address the underlying problems that caused such a deep and lasting global recession.
So my question is, why not start freezing spending now? And would you support a line item veto and helping us get a vote on it in the House?
Let me respond to the two specific questions, but I want to just push back a little bit on the underlying premise about us increasing spending by 84%. Now, that means addressing some of the underlying problems that led to this turmoil and devastation in the first place. But the underlying approach never changes, and that is the United States is committed to Israel's security. We are committed to that special bond. And we are going to do what's required to back that up, not just with words, but with actions. I was in contact with all the leadership over the course of the weekend and continued to urge both Democrats and Republicans to come together around an approach that not only lifts the debt ceiling, but also solves the underlying challenges that we face when it comes to debt and deficits. The hard part is actually dealing with the underlying debt and deficits and doing it in a way that's fair. I expect to have an excellent working relationship with the next Mexican president, whoever that candidate may be, because the underlying common interests that we have economically, socially, culturally, the people-to-people relationship that we have is so important that it transcends partisan politics. But understand, this isn't going to make much of a difference if the costs, underlying costs of college, keep going up faster than everything else. But each step points to the fact that Europe is moving towards further integration rather than breakup, and that these problems can be resolved, and points to the underlying strength in Europe's economies. And more broadly, as nations, let's recommit to addressing the underlying forces that push so many into bondage in the first place. I recognize that there are those who are not simply skeptical about peace, but question its underlying premise, have a different vision for Israel's future. With prevention programs for at-risk youth and with economic development that gives young people hope and opportunity. Meanwhile, as I said in Mexico yesterday, the American people have the good sense to know we cannot resolve the underlying conflict in Syria with our military. And an initial response will not solve the underlying tragedy of the civil war in Syria.